This is Sherry Geese.
Perfect.
That's way off.
I gotta do this.
I was gonna say, you're right now, you're right down from me.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole Finance meeting to order at 6:03 PM. We will start with roll call. Johnson here, Sherry Geese,
I'm here.
Jonathan Van Laar sent me a text, he will not be here. Dave Wiltsey,
Here.
Ray Larson,
Here.
Steve Schabacher, Jeff Carlisle,
Here.
Brian Curry,
Here.
Robertson,
He said he was.
Sherry Bartelt,
Here.
Rodney Riley,
Here, sir.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Here.
Thank you. Next, I'd accept a motion to approve the August 5th Committee of the Whole Administration Minutes. Second by Mr. Carlisle, seconded by Mr. Schabacher. Any discussion, Mr. Wiltsey?
We had, it was indicated to me just before the meeting started, that the minutes aren't ready yet. Remember, we pulled them last time because we didn't have them. So we have to wait on that.
That's attached to
Am I correct on that, Kevin?
That is correct. Yeah, we'll have them for the next meeting.
So these minutes
Yep.
are on here?
Yeah.
You want to withdraw that motion, Mr. Carlisle?
Shall withdraw.
Yep. Second? Yep. Those withdrawn. Next is approving the agenda. Before we make that motion, I'd like to amend the agenda by moving item 7.1, emergency procurement jail rooftop AC air handler unit replacement, to right under public comment. So we'll make that 5.1.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wiltsey, seconded by Mr. Schabacher. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schabacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up, public comment. Do we have any public comment? We get anything in the email? Okay, perfect. Sherry, this is where I'd normally throw it over to you, but I'm gonna steal the thunder here for just a minute.
That's okay.
Just to go to 5.1 here on the emergency procurement jail rooftop AC air handler unit replacement. Everybody should have seen in board docs some information from staff on this. I'll give you a quick layman's term on what's happening. So many moons ago, when they built the jail, and if you've been on the board as long as I have, anytime you hear the word jail, you start to cringe because you know it's going to cost us a lot of money. But many moons ago, when they built the jail, they put several AC units up there. On a large building, you've got to have several AC units to do the cooling. What our experts tell us is they think something got switched and there was a wrong unit was put in the wrong spot, but that's neither here nor there. What the long and skinny of it is, unit lasted a long time, and then there's also the air conditioning unit, and then there's an air handling unit, a blower, so to speak, that pushes that air. And the blowing unit was not sized big enough for the air conditioning unit to be able to get it to run properly. To compound that, the vents or the piping that's used to transfer that air down to the various stages in the basement of the jail wasn't sized properly either. So we've done many fixes over the years. Cerrone's come up with lots of ways to try and keep the thing running and milking along. And they've done a pretty good job at that, but this unit has finally met its match and it's done. So rather than just put the same kind of unit back where we've put it, Cerrone contacted some of their experts in the ventilation industry, sheet metal industry, and they came up with a plan that can not only replace the unit that we have with the proper size unit, but also find a way to boost the airflow in the lower parts of the jail, which will in turn help boost the circulation, which will in turn help a lot of other things. Just to step back for a minute, just so you're all aware, this particular area of the jail is an area that we've been sued on before because prisoners were getting too hot. And anytime you get a lawsuit like that, the insurance companies say, pay it, because you're not going to win. So you end up paying out a bunch of money because the temperature's too hot. So this will help in those aspects. We'll get better airflow. We'll get a better unit. And on top of that, the previous unit lasted 30 years, 35 years. So this unit should last, at least another week or two. No, I'm just kidding. At least, I expect to see probably 20 to 30 years typically. Something like that. Anything can happen, but that's, we can bank on that, or at least plan on that. The other thing on this particular unit that we're replacing has been costing the county and the corrections budget somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 per year in just maintenance to try and keep it running. With putting this new equipment in, including this, I'm going to call it a booster pump. I'm in the water industry, so I call it a booster pump. I don't know if that's the proper term for this, but I'm getting a nod no. But basically a booster fan to help circulate that air better. By doing that, we're going to get a better quality product and a whole lot less maintenance required on it. So we do have our Cerrone piping expert here. Have you got anything that I missed on that you want to touch on quick in layman's terms? Yeah, you'd have to come up here to the microphone if you want to say anything. Otherwise, he is here to answer some questions if you have it. And then you do have a staff report in your information also. Maintenance did contact some other people looking for other options and things like that. Most everybody was just offering, look, we can replace the unit, the air conditioning unit, basically, for somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. But that doesn't solve the bigger issues that we're still having, and that circulation and that airflow. And I'm a firm believer if we can save ourselves $12,000 to $15,000 a year because we can't get circulation, let's do that. Now, one other thing I'll touch on, I did ask, is there a way to change that ductwork? And there is, but the price is just too immense because there's so many other pipes, so many other things in the way. If it were new construction, we could, upgrade it and that'd be great and it'd be easy, but it's not. It's all rehab work and it would be extremely costly. So this is our best option to help create that additional circulation.
Well, I think Carl's pretty much summed everything up very well with his presentation there. The only thing that I wanted to add to would be the energy savings that would come along with the unit. As far as like an environmental impact too, there'll be less refrigerant because it is a package unit, and that basically it's the whole system basically contained in one spot. So you have a smaller charge of refrigerant too. Repairs on this unit also would be less costly. Back in the day, the only options that they really had to condition a space like that would be what they have there now, but this is obviously an alternative. So I just wanted to add to that the unit is in our shop yard and is ready for install. So it's something that we can really make a quick turnaround and get started on this right away. That's just basically all I wanted to add to what Carl was saying.
Yeah, that's an important point. If anybody that's involved with any logistics or buying or anything right now, if you can get something that's in stock right now, good luck. You try and find that. In my industry, anything, if we hear 4 to 6 weeks lead time, we're happy anymore. It's usually 8 to 12 or 16 weeks. And this particular unit is actually a mistake that they ordered for another project that turned out it was ordered wrong. So we're getting the benefit that they actually have it. Anybody else, I think you're looking at probably 3 to 4 weeks minimum to get it. And that's just my personal experience. I don't care what a manufacturer tells you. If they tell you it's 2 to 4 weeks, it's going to be closer to 4 to 6 weeks because they keep moving shipment dates out further and further, even though they've guaranteed them. So, questions for Mr.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name.
Jason,
Jason, I'm Steve. Jason, what's a brand on that unit?
it's a train.
Frame, all right. And what's the time frame for you, if this passes, what's the time frame for installation on that?
I would want to say at the most 2 weeks, but I really think we can get it done under the 2 week time frame, but probably more like a week or week and a half. I just want to say 2 weeks to be on the safe side.
And this is just a 1 day installation time to put that up on rooftop, RTU rooftop unit?
Yes, it's going to involve a crane. So we're going to have to take the old unit off with a crane. And
what size of unit is it? What's the tonnage on it?
it's a 15 ton. So with the calculations that our
Engineer?
engineer did was he's going to be able to, instead of just being able to supply 10 tons of cooling on a good day with that booster fan that's going to be in place of where the air handler sits now, we'll be able to get you 15 tons of cooling. So you're actually going to be able to get more. So basically that is going to increase we call it in our industry the static pressure, but that's going to increase the airflow. We're actually going to be able, with that fan, push that air through the undersized ductwork without damaging anything, but we'll be able to get that through to the jail and get it back to the unit to get it conditioned.
More than one booster on those ducts, more than one booster fan, or all you need is one on that?
Just one, because there is a return fan right now, so.
And I imagine, of course, on top of it, you got the disconnect switches and everything right on top of the roof and everything for that.
All the power is there. So what we would do is we would utilize the power from the existing air handler that's there. The air handler would be removed, but we'd use that power. So there would be no, any type of electrical modifications or anything like that, except for moving piping and wiring.
Okay, so what about the roof itself? Is there any alterations to that roof, like flashing stuff that you have to address?
Well, I'm glad you reminded me of that because this is going to be all dependent. And in this quote, we have it figured in for a structural engineer to come and take a look at to see if that existing curbing can support that rooftop. And just as a guesstimate right now, I'm looking at that rooftop or the unit that's there right now is roughly about 1,000 pounds.
Okay.
The new unit's going to be probably around 1,300, so 300 is really not much when it comes to that with the all the bracing that's been put in already for that unit.
The engineer's gonna take a look at it to make sure that, like, the dead
Right.
lift on that roof will hold that.
Absolutely. I'm not going to go any further with the project until we can get him there on site. It was just figuratively speaking that we could actually start tomorrow or whatever, just because we have everything set up and I've already talked to our sheet metal.
What's the warranty on that?
Oh, for God's sake.
I believe it's 5 years.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, Kevin, on the data on here, what did you come up with a summary of savings in a period of time? It looks like less than 6 months. If we're having maintenance of $12,000 to $15,000 and putting this thing in, your ROI is less than about 3-4 months, isn't it?
No, it's about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it'd be years, but I guess I have to say I didn't prepare any of that for tonight though, but yeah, it'd be about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, just kind of doing a quick summary. That's what I was looking at.
Yes, and then a little bit of additional information. We are going to apply for a ComEd incentive, and I believe it'll be around $1,200 to $1,500. So we'll get some of that money back, and then of course, as Jason said, there will be some cost savings and energy savings as well.
So overall, over 3-4 years, we'll get our money.
Mr. Carlo, you can use your microphone.
Oh, not close. So 3-4 years, we get our return on investment and start saving. That's an easy deal.
This is Sherry.
Yes, Sherry, go ahead.
Not being the whiz at Robert's Rules of Order, and I see that this is just shown as a discussion topic, but how can is there any way we can approve this tonight so they can move on it tomorrow?
So Sherry, this is Kevin. This is an emergency purchase, and according to the purchasing policy adopted by the board, it actually does not have to be approved by the board. The department head can approve it in consultation with the board chair and the county administrator. And since this is urgent, that's basically the process that is set in place. We are to advise the county board, in this case, the appropriate committee, which is finance, that this purchase will be made. So that's why the motion is just to acknowledge the information as received and considered. But the purchasing policy doesn't require the board to approve this purchase.
Terrific. Then can I make that motion to recognize the information as received and I consider it appropriate to move forward?
Second.
Second, any further discussion on this?
And the bidder is then Cerrone Piping.
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson. Yes. Sherry, I'm assuming you meant to go with the project proposed by Cerrone Piping?
Yes, I apologize. I meant to include that.
I thought I heard you say that just under your breath.
I'm a little rusty, kid, sorry. And by the way, Kevin, thank you for that clarification.
Oh, you're welcome.
Super.
Yes, definitely Cerrone.
All right, any further discussion? Ms. Bartel?
Yes, do you know how much it will increase the airflow into the different parts of the jail with this new unit?
Just so everybody knows, we told Jason, oh, you won't have to say anything.
I do not have that information on hand right now. If it's in your guys' best interest, we could take some readings before we decide to take the system out and then take some after the fact, because I know that our sheet metal guys, for lack of better terms, will do a complete air balance on the system when it's done. So we could maybe give you before and after.
I think that'd be great, just to have information would be good, so we can put in the file and say, hey, look what we did. Yes, Sherry?
I know when I was at Chrysler, when stuff went down out there, our great big blowers went down, we couldn't breathe or anything in the booth. We had to have our health department come in there and take airflow stuff. I was wondering if, will you have somebody in that type of person to do the testing of the air coming in?
We usually don't do that on any type of cases, but when we go to replace this unit, I would say at least 50% of the ductwork will be brand new. So I really don't see an issue there. And like I said, I really don't know. We've never really done anything like that before. We don't. With the space that unit is in, there's really no issues with mold or mildew or anything.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking of.
Heating system.
Yeah, because we had that problem out there too with mold and mildew, made a lot of us sick.
Well, I've done a lot of work out of Chrysler too, and
you know,
a lot of their stuff is 100% outside air, makeup air. So this is not that type of system. So usually what's going through that unit is the same air that is down into the space. It's recirculated, just like your house and your air conditioner in your house.
I was just asking because I know out there ours was water. And we had the mold on the water and it's a lot of.
Yeah, I know, I understand.
Any further discussion on this, Freddie?
Just really quickly, is there a lot of maintenance required for these units compared to the previous system? Because I know Carl mentioned that we spent a lot of money previously maintaining
Well,
the current system.
that's a good question. So yeah, there is going to be less maintenance. It's going to become less complex than what's there now.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of repairs that could be done on this unit that the in-house maintenance department can take care of and not have to call me in there. And that's kind of my goal, is to never have to work on that unit again, because kind of, it's a lot of money at first, but we're trying to alleviate a problem. And I do want to reiterate that with the ductwork that's there, we're going to make it a whole lot better, but it's not going to be perfect because it's a jail. But we can get it cooled down, and we can get it to where these guys can breathe again in there. Because I think I talked to Ted Seeley, which was the head of maintenance at the jail. And he said currently right now, there's a couple cell blocks right now that are 82 degrees and humid. So we all know what it's like to be 82 degrees and humid. So,
All right, last comment, Sherry?
Yes, when you redo this, will the ductwork all be cleaned out before the new unit goes in?
yes.
Good.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and vote. Motion on the floor as presented by Vice Chair Geeske to go with the Cerrone piping proposal. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson. Ray Larson,
Aye.
Steve Schabacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel,
Yes,
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Jason, thank you very much for your time. Go enjoy the fair, have some corn. I said, go enjoy the fair, have some corn. Ms. Geeske, I will turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Let's go now to item 6.1, the treasurer's monthly report. And Kevin, I understand, let's see, I think you've been abandoned. So Kurt's not there and Dan's not there. So do I turn this over to you if there are any questions?
Sure, I can try to field questions on the treasurer's report if needed.
Sure. Are there any questions on Kurt's treasurer's report? No questions from in the boardroom?
No questions, Sherry.
Okay, then I think that's it. Is there anything you think we should know that we don't see already, Kevin, or can we move on?
No, I believe we can move on.
Okay, let's go to 6.2, which is we already did the monthly financial report, right?
Nope,
No, but
that one yet. We skipped, we moved 7.1 ahead.
Hang on a minute, you guys. All right, we've got administration. 6.2 is administration monthly financial report.
yes, and then I can kind of field questions on that. It's from last month, and a lot has not changed. We're actually still seeing a great increase in our revenues over our previous year. So we're up 17%. And if you count the CURE money that we received, we're up 24%. All levels are still doing very well on the other metrics that we have, and in particular with regard to our basically the internet sales tax that was passed a while back. So we've been seeing an increase in that, and that's that leveling the playing field sales tax disbursement. So that requires all remote retailers to collect sales tax. So that's been doing a really good job for us. And like I said, I can field any questions, on the administration financial report.
Any questions for Kevin in the boardroom? Ray,
Sherry,
any questions?
Sherry, this is Carl. I've got one quick
Go
question.
ahead. Go ahead.
Kevin, as these revenues come in higher than expected, I'm hoping that we are taking those funds and rebuilding our reserves that we had years ago. So
Yes.
I want to just stress that we need to do that. Those reserves served us well throughout the financial issues with health insurance and the recession. So as long as we make sure we're prepared. So All right, that's all I've got, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Let's go to item 7.2, the Denny Road Bridge Construction Engineering. Is Justin in the boardroom or?
He is. He's heading to the podium now.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Go ahead.
So this is the item that we awarded, or that we made a motion to move on to the board this next week.
Yep.
For the reconstruction of Denny Road Bridge just north of Orth Road. This would be the phase 3 construction engineering portion of that. Fair Graham has provided a proposal to do that at a not to exceed $34,000, which would be split between Boone County and Boone Township.
Any questions for Justin? Then I think I'm looking for a motion to move the Denny Road Bridge Replacement Construction Engineering Services Agreement with Fair Graham in the amount of $34,018 forward to the county board next week.
Do that.
Motion was by Mr. Carlisle
Sorry.
and a second by Mr. Schubacher.
Thank you. Do you want to do the roll call, Carl?
I can do that for you.
Go ahead.
Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson. Ray Larson.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Aye. Steve Schubacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Sherry Bartell.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Marty De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Item 7.3 is a motion to approve probation department purchasing card approval for Aaron Schwarzbach. Any discussion, any questions?
I see none.
All right, I'm looking for a motion.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Riley,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Bartelt.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Steve Schubacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Marty De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Item 7.4 is a credit card policy amendments. Any discussion on this one? Any questions?
Mr. Wiltsey has a comment.
Go ahead, Dave.
I noticed this when I looked at 7.3, but then when I saw we were amending this, if you look at the last page in attachment B, section 2, it says all charges need accompanying original documentation as detained in this policy. I believe it was supposed to be detailed, although that's the way it was in the old policy too. So it's just a typo, I think. As long as we're amending this, I would recommend that be changed to detailed if that in fact was what was meant.
Any comments from anyone else in the boardroom?
Sherry, I got something.
Go ahead.
I'm struggling with this one a little bit just because I really feel like it's the county board's duty to kind of keep a real strict eye on the finances of the community and the dollars. And I just feel like this is just one way to help keep control of that a little bit, because ultimately the county board's the ones that are responsible if anything bad happens. Not that anything bad will happen or that we don't have good people here in the county now or anything like that. I certainly don't mean it that way, but I hesitate in relinquishing that out. So that's my comment.
Any other comments from the boardroom?
Yes, Sherry, this is Kevin Catlin, if I may.
Yes, please.
So this credit card policy was proposed to be amended by the county treasurer, and I supported it in terms of dispersing credit cards and awarding credit cards to county employees. It should not take a month to do so. This county employee has been a probation officer for over a month, and it's now taken us over a month to approve a credit card where the county treasurer can, in the snap of a finger, turn that credit card off. There are all sorts of protections on credit cards. All expenses are approved by that department head and overseen by that department head. The county board oversees the claims every meeting, so that's where the control still lies there. This policy and I guess regardless, the county board has hired individuals and staff to manage and monitor and control expenses. So the policy just takes out the county board's, approval authority in terms of, or I guess in an effort to innovate and put emphasis on efficiency. It's just taking way too long to get our employees credit cards. And this employee's out in the field, has to buy fuel, has to buy food for detained or for probationers, has to travel for conferences, and they can't because they don't have a credit card for a month. So that's what the policy aims to do. There will still be in my report, the administration office report, details on what credit cards are awarded to which employees, and there's an approval sequence that it would still go through department head, the employee would sign, county treasurer would have to approve it, and I would have to approve it as final authorizer. Thank you.
This is Sherry. I have a couple of comments. Thank you, Kevin. If you look at the second page of the policy and the third to the last paragraph, two items. It says misuse of a county credit card may result in disciplinary action, including termination of employment. I would suggest you put up to and including. I would think the words up to and including termination should be stuck in there. That's my suggestion. And to the point you were just talking about, it says this does not limit the possibility of criminal investigation and prosecution for misuse of a credit card. I would assume that that is a safeguard for all levels of approval up to the county board. I would assume that that is a safety feature there. Am I correct on that?
Yes, that would be correct.
And then I have one other quick thing. I know this is sounding nitpicky, but if we're going to do it, under attachment A, Boone County credit card request form, we have a department head signature and date, but when we get to county administrator, we only have a signature. I think it's important to have a date on that one also, just so we can see the flow of the process and see that we are accomplishing what we have set out to do, and that is to streamline this process and simplify it.
Okay, I've taken those comments down. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other comments, concerns, or questions? This needs to be a motion to move forward to the board, or can we just do it now?
Yes, it needs to move forward to the board, yes.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to forward this credit card policy amendment to the board.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wiltsey, seconded by Mr. Carlisle.
That add on that we change those items that we were talking about from detained to detail up to, and in the administrative amendment A, administration date.
Is that what you were motioning, Mr. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Okay.
As amended, yes.
Okay.
Suggestions.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. Sherry, you ready for a roll call?
I am. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Carl Johnson, no. Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Steve Schabacher,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Sherry Bartell,
Yes,
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you, Carl. Item 7.5 is, let's see, is 2022 budget review. Kevin, are you going to do, I know on the schedule, it indicates we're supposed to talk about an overview of expenditures for the general fund. Are you going to do that tonight?
So we're going to hold off and reschedule that to next month's administration meeting. And then we'll kind of continue. We're just a little bit behind in preparing those, the expenditure presentation. And we're also wanting to roll in the rest of our revenue discussion. We're waiting on some PTEL information. So we should be ready at the next administration committee meeting and then moving forward from there through finance.
All right, that sounds fine. Nothing new there because that seems to happen every year, Kevin. Okay, we're up to 7.6, a discussion topic, social media policy. I will open this to discussion, I guess.
Anyone have anything?
I do.
Mr. Wiltsey? I'll get you, Mr. Carlisle.
I will defer to Mr. Carlisle as the
Okay.
wanted
Carlisle?
this.
Just a couple of details I was looking at under the general policy 1, item E. When we talk about state, federal laws and local regulations, I would hope we would put in the the state reference code law number that we're referencing. That includes in item F under that same general policy, the state reference code and the numbers, in case somebody absolutely wants to look at those. I would think those references would be appropriate. My notes here. The item B under comment policy 2, it says county further acknowledges certain speech falls outside of the First Amendment, blah, blah, blah. And we have a list of items here. Those items, are those part of the state regulations that we currently see? Or are those something different?
Is there Trish or Carla on the line?
Carla is here in the room with us.
Oh, great.
Hi. I'll address your points in the order you made them, if that's okay, Jeff. So I'll start with the first one. The item E under general policy, that the page shall adhere to applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. That doesn't reference any particular statute. Most of the state and federal laws that I'm referencing there is case law. It's constitutional law, it's case law. So there's no particular state code that I'm referring to, and I wouldn't recommend that we, just in general, we don't like to put specific references to state statutes, federal statutes in our county code or our policies, because those statutes change all the time. And then we get stuck with citations to state statutes that either don't apply anymore or have been changed by the state. No one catches them and fixes them, and it creates a mess. That's just kind of a general disclaimer that the social media pages, will comply to state and federal law, because that would always trump anything that you'd find in a policy that I create. So then moving on to paragraph B. Again, these, so the list there under B, which is a non-exhaustive list of the types of speech that aren't covered by the First Amendment, that's all case law as well. There's no federal statute or state statute that lists out these items. Those are all things that have types of speech that generally speaking, the U.S. Supreme Court has found is not protected under the First Amendment, and it's way more. There are a lot of permutations to that. This is pretty. It's complicated. So these just in general are the sort of topics that aren't protected by the First Amendment, but it's subjective to. Our recommendation will be to err on the side of not removing things that don't clearly fall under one of these categories.
Other questions in the boardroom or comments?
Mr. Wiltsey?
There was a reference in some of the supplementary or some of the initial materials that Jeff had provided. One of them was a website or a article by an attorney cautioning about the staff costs and some of the potential pitfalls. So I'm not sure that I'm there yet on this issue. But laying that aside for a moment, I would suggest in Roman numeral 2, I think it's C and E. Twice it says, I believe, the county, in E, county, and I would suggest that ought to be the county administrator rather than just the county. The county administrator is hardly referenced in this except in the very beginning. I just leave that for everyone's thought.
Any other comments or questions in the boardroom? I have a,
Go ahead, Sherry.
I'm sorry, I have a couple of, I guess what I have several questions that I need to ask. I'm curious, what has prompted the desire to do this policy? In other words, is it really necessary? And how many incidences have occurred by county employees that has resulted in the desire or the need to adopt this policy?
I think this was brought to the attention of the board by Mr. Carlisle. He had suggested that we look into this. There do exist a handful of Facebook pages. I don't know if anyone has a Twitter or Instagram, but for example, Animal Services has a Facebook page, and most of you have probably seen that. It's very helpful for them. They post pictures of the animals that are up for adoption. They post some of the needs they have, and it really helps them get those animals adopted and get some donations. The state's attorney's office has a Facebook page. We post some feel-good things. We post some items when we have trials, convictions, sentencing, push information out to the public. The sheriff's department has a Facebook page. I can't think of any more off of the top of my head, but certainly departments do currently have social media pages. So it's not a terrible idea to put a policy like this in place. This is this isn't a policy that is trying to micromanage departments. It's intended, I think, more as a guideline for departments to use when they're administering their social media pages. And it just kind of directs them to our office if they have questions about what content isn't appropriate. I'm not aware of any problems that have popped up specifically on any county department Facebook pages.
If I may, in other words, what you are stating again, Carla, is in the policy, it says the same standards of conduct that apply to Boone County employees in the performance of their day-to-day jobs apply to their use of county-maintained social media platforms. So that is consistent. Here's what my concern is. With all due respect, in some ways, I find this to be a tad bit disingenuous. Because as I look down the list at item 2B, that gives the list of things that are subject to removal by the county. Item J, content intended to defame any person, group, or organization. Sadly, there have been incidences where I have sat in that boardroom and heard some of my colleagues tiptoeing around those sorts of issues. So here's my question. If we're going to adopt this policy, then is it going to apply to the board or to the county board members also?
Right. So there is a difference between what can be regulated with respect to Boone County employees and what can be regulated, what speech can be regulated with respect to county board members. I know that you all are paid, but you are not considered employees of the county. You're elected officials. And the county does not have a right really to regulate your speech nearly as closely as the county has the right to regulate speech of its employees or of people who are posting on the county's social media pages. I know it's a weird distinction, but as private citizens, the county can't forbid you from defaming anyone. You may face consequences for defaming people. You might be sued in a civil action for slander, libel, defamation, but the county can't place a restriction on your free speech rights in that regard. We could, you're not allowed to, the classic example is yelling fire in a crowded theater. Certainly your rights of speech as county board members are not unfettered by the First Amendment, but you can regulate the speech of employees and of people who post on your Facebook page more than you can regulate the speech of each other as elected officials. Generally speaking, your speech is political speech, and you can say probably about as much as anyone can under the guise of political speech.
I appreciate that, Carla, and I also have to tell you, in looking at the memo you put together, you sort of stated very clearly, the purpose of this is to adopt it in an effort to address behavior and etiquette on social media platforms. If you drop to the last sentence of that paragraph, it says board members should hold themselves to a high regard and remain respectful when interacting with constituents online, also in person or in the boardroom, I think. But I'll leave it alone, and I'll stop asking now. Thank you. Any other questions for Carla?
Okay, wait. Where are you seeing that, Sherry?
That what I just read you is in the first paragraph of the memo dated August 12th, discussion of social media policy under the background.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Into the first paragraph.
So that's the cover page that we.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's just, yeah,
I
so,
understand.
yeah, that was explaining kind of how the issue first came about. So I was explaining Mr. Carlisle's intent for the social media policy, but then you explained how it kind of
I understand.
morphed into what it is now, so.
Anything else for this?
Mr. Riley's got something.
Go ahead, Rodney.
I'm sorry, Carl, this may not be really addressed to you, but in reading this, the letter that's the item cover page, Board Member Carlisle proposed new policy. I realize Jeff is the one that brought the information forward, but I think it goes back even farther to the back in the spring when I think that, Mr. Chairman, you spoke to the board as a whole about, issues with social media and how it affects potential businesses, organizations that want to do, if I'm correct, we talked about all that. And I think this was just a step further in that direction to kind of get something out there that, we all need to, either adhere by or, just a set of rules to be able to put out there so we keep everything in check so that we make sure that we don't look, foolish to businesses that are looking. Because you're correct when you made that statement that people do look at this stuff. And I think it's just behooves us to be on best behavior on social media. And if it comes to a policy that we have to adhere, that we have to enact to be able to do that, I think it's really important that we follow something like that. Again, I don't want to violate anybody's civil rights by any means, but I think it has real good intent. It's just a matter of how we want to go about implementing it is the issue.
Rodney, I think you make a very good point. However, if I understand what this policy is, it doesn't apply to board members.
That's correct, Sherry. If the board wanted to do a sort of board norms and agreements, that's a common practice for boards. A lot of times that's done during a retreat or a sort of special time that you set aside to talk about how you want to comport yourself as a board and sort of come up with some sort of guidelines and agreements on how you talk to each other, how you treat each other, how you represent the county, how you comport yourselves. Typically, those are not enforceable by any sort of mechanism. It's sort of just a time for you guys to sit down and say, hey, this is how we want to talk to each other and talk about each other and present ourselves to the community. And it does have, in my experience, it does have value, even if there's no enforcement mechanism. So that is always an option if you guys are interested in doing something like that.
I think you make a very good point, Rodney and Carla. And I guess if your mom didn't teach you these things, well, we could always start. But I'm not a big fan of nitpicking. I just think we all have to take care of ourselves and go back to some of the things that are laid out here and how we are viewed by our constituents. What do we want to do with this, kids?
This was just a discussion item for tonight, so.
All right, are we finished? Any more discussion? Carla, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's see, and let me see. I think we are up to 9.0, informational items and other business. Any correspondence, Kevin?
Yes, just one item. This evening, we received an email from R1PC with preliminary 2020 census numbers for Boone County and Belvedere, and as well as other various other cities within Boone and Winnebago. Looks like Boone County has, we're seeing a decline of just 1.32%, and City of Belvedere 0.96%. So that's actually, even though it's a decline, it's actually good news. I'm sure that there are other municipalities, counties that will see greater decline than that. So it's good news for us that we're still within just marginal here or there. So that's all I have for correspondence tonight.
Excellent. So is Belvedere going to still may have their home rule?
Yes, because they are still above 25,000.
Okay, that's what I was curious. Let's see, anything about UCCI?
Nothing this evening.
And I think we did our reapportionment discussion at admin.
We did not have one, but we're just still waiting on some census numbers, and then we'll have that discussion, yes.
Can I just add to that quick? Sorry, I'll hop over to the microphone.
Go ahead, Carla.
Thanks, Sherry. Tricia wanted me to add that Tammy from GIS has looked at the ACS data. I think some board members had asked where we were on this at a prior meeting. She wasn't super comfortable with its accuracy. We had talked about perhaps using that data in order to get things rolling on this because we thought the census data was going to be later than it is. We've actually received Tammy has received some of the census data today. The rest is scheduled to arrive August 30th. So that's actually sooner for once the government has done something ahead of when we expected it. So that's great. The plan is that the board will have something to look at on this topic in September. Tammy will be working on that hard to get you something on a timely basis.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks.
Let's see, 9.4, any more board member comments?
Seeing none.
Okay, I think we have no executive session, I don't think. I think we need one more motion.
Motion?
I think half the board moved to adjourn and the other half is seconding.
Yeah.
But put in a name there for me. Okay, all in favor of
We'll say Mr. De La Trinidad made the motion and Mr. Riley seconded.
And I see
Give them the
Dave,
credit.
and I see Dave putting his hat on already. All in favor of adjourning, say aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sherry.
Uh-huh.